Hello, everyone. This is Raise Your Voice as part of the Fans First Sports Network. I'm your host, Brett Rutherford, joined as always by my good friend and co-host, Darby Robinson. We are live on youtube.com/at Raise Your Voice and also available wherever you get your podcasts. If you really enjoy what we do here on Raise Your Voice, you can head on over to patreon.com/Raise Your Voice and become a member for as little as $1 a month. But Darby, we're back. We're inching ever so closely to the start of spring training. Pitchers and catchers report in just a few weeks. And we have no more new roster news, although there's a trade I guess we'll touch on shortly. But the biggest news since we've last spoke is that Drew Rasmussen has signed a contract extension that agreed for his pay for this year at $2.25 million. It's got a second year at $5.75 million, and then a club option for what would be that first free agent year for $8 million, and that comes with a $500,000 buyout. So Drew Rasmussen gets some security. The Rays get some security for a guy who's had like 3 arm surgeries already before the age of 30. But overall, in my opinion, this is a win-win deal. What are your win-win deal for everybody involved? What is your take on this?
Oh, I love it. I think Drew Rasmussen is a fantastic pitcher who has proven that has some of the best stuff of any pitcher on the Rays or in baseball. But his big curse has been he is, even back from his college days, has been injuries. And so when you're a pitcher, everybody that's a pitcher is you are nervously waiting when that injury comes, and you're hoping it's later in your career or near the very end, but it feels like it's inevitable that something will happen. And there are some guys like Jacob deGrom that have kind of been snake bit, and Rasmussen's been that. He's been a guy that's gotten some really bad luck when it comes to injuries. So I think the fact that he's able to get some security, come into this season. I know there's been all this talk. We've mentioned it here on the pod about him wanting to get back into being a starting pitcher. And he was a spectacularly good starting pitcher with the Rays since he's been traded to the Rays from the Brewers. He's been really, really good in that role. When he came back last year, he was in the relief role. And so we weren't really sure, after this last injury, is he going to stay in relief? Maybe try to help, keep his workload light, or would they kind of put him back into the rotation? After the Jeffrey Springs trade, it does open a spot for him in the rotation. And I think this deal just sort of signals like a nice mutual agreement of like, okay, we're going to give you a shot to start. However, it is not like you need to start to be able to get your money. Right. Like, you are not going to need to start to earn that paycheck. That kind of pushes that decision down a little bit. You get some security. And now he can be used in ways that aren't just, binary starter or reliever. He can maybe have some like shorter starts that you piggyback with another guy. You can do some opener type of stuff where it's like an extended opener. He does the first 3 innings or the first 4 innings and then is out. And it's not manipulating like his numbers that he's going to need to earn his contract. It's potentially working with him so that he can just get a healthy, awesome season in no matter what form that is. And who better than the Rays to be able to kind of help work with him to do what's right physically, but also for the team to because when he's throwing however long it is on the field, that's good for the Rays. So I like it. I like the, it's obviously a risk. He's been injured a lot, so it's a little risk from the Rays, but I think there's a big risk, from Rasmussen that you don't want to go into the season kind of without a safety net with that many injuries. So I like it from both sides. I want to see more of these type of deals. And I think the Rays have done a lot more of these lately, which is extensions where it kind of covers a little security. It's security for the player. It's security for the team. We saw like Tyler Glasnow have one of these. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Shane McClanahan get one of these like after this year. Like, I think these type of I think Jeffrey Springs kind of got one of those as well. So I think that type of deal is mutually beneficial. And I think it's one of the reasons why like the Rays stay very popular and a good reputation amongst player league as a place to potentially go to rehab, a place that try to treat their players correctly, even amongst all the trades, that they're treating people with that respect that you kind of want to see.
And Drew Rasmussen, when healthy, has been one of the best pitchers in baseball, like full stop.
Yeah.
We saw him come back and used it in a little bit of a hybrid role. He started a few games where he would go an inning or two, worked multiple innings out of the bullpen. And I said when the Rays first acquired Rasmussen back in the Willy Adames trade, that was the 2021 season, he was the best pitcher in their bullpen down the stretch. And then, ultimately we see the transition to starter. He was incredible as a starting pitcher before getting hurt. He has been just nothing short of one of the best pitchers in baseball when healthy. Now, to say that he could do that as a starter full time, probably not. Like, I don't know if he projects that well as a starter full time. He still projects as like at least a number 3 starter, but probably better. So what this deal does is, if Drew Rasmussen starts and he can throw 120, 130 innings in a season, incredible value for the Rays. If Drew Rasmussen, maybe there are some bumps, maybe they do need to slow him down. Maybe he does need to move back to the bullpen full time as he gets into his 30s just to preserve that arm health. He would be one of the best relievers in the game. And to get one of the best relievers in the game at $5.5 million next year, or even at $8 million if they pick up the club option for the year after that, that's still incredible value.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously there's health risk, but we talk about this all the time, Darby. Every pitcher has health risk. Drew Rasmussen, surely there's more, but we saw him come back. Some of the, and this is where, like, again, I kind of see Drew Rasmussen eventually, becoming a reliever. I could see him pitching well into his 30s because the stuff is just so incredible. He was striking out batters at a rate he had never done before in the big leagues. And so for me, this is just a no-brainer for the Rays. And it wouldn't shock me to see, like, he has a really good healthy year, that this deal gets reworked again going into next offseason. Maybe,
totally.
You get another year added on to this. Maybe at that point, Rasmussen gets closer to free agency and kind of wants to test the open market. But this is an organization that drafted him, did not sign him initially, but there was a really strong relationship there. Obviously, it was health reasons that led to him not signing, but then still went out and acquired him. They traded their franchise shortstop, who just signed for a boatload of money, to acquire Drew Rasmussen in a deal a few years ago. So I'm really happy that he's going to stay with the Rays. I think it just gives everybody a little bit more security. I'm still a little, not worried, but perplexed at how they're going to go into the season, assuming everyone's healthy. I say that, but I think someone asked Eric Neander about it, and he's like, well, remember when, we had the same issue a couple of years ago, and we thought these 5 guys were the best rotation in baseball, and they didn't make a single trip through the rotation with those 5 guys. The Rays have been in the past year, incredibly blessed with arm health for their pitchers. And there's other injuries that pop up. Bradley had the pec injury, and someone else is dealing with a back, I think. Things are going to happen. Ryan Pepio gets bit by a spider. Things happen, there's bathroom furniture. We shouldn't be worried about, man, the Rays have 6 really good starters. What are they going to do?
It's some real penthouse problems right there, when you're exactly. Like, gosh, what do I do with all of these great pitchers?
But I think it allows you to build Rasmussen up slowly. Like, maybe he is only going to go 4 innings, and maybe you can use guys like Vassell or Ryan Lavender, Nathan Lavender, whenever he's ready. Cole Sulser, you've got Mason Montgomery. I would like to see if they're going to use him as a multiple inning guy this year as well. I think in terms of the puzzle, right? That's what Kyle Snyder always refers to it, the innings puzzle of how you're going to get through 162 games with the 6 starters you've got, and then the 7 relievers, that you'll have on your active roster, assuming health. The puzzle is there. There's a way to work this out. And, you've also got to have like we're gonna deal with something that we haven't dealt with ever in the history of Rays baseball, and that's rainouts at home, right? That messes with your pitching schedule. You have to be able to mix and match. This is something that obviously the Rays have deal with for half of their games. There's potential for weather. That is something new that you're going to be dealing with all year long. So I imagine the plan has to look a little bit different. And going in with these 6 names, because Zach Littell often gets talked about as the last man out, and he was your best starting pitcher last year. So a little tough for Zach Littell, but I think it speaks to how strong the pitching staff is going into the season.
Well, when you look at like Drew Rasmussen, you mentioned like some of the best stuff. Like legitimately, he has some of the best stuff. So by Saris's Stuff Plus model, last year was his like best showing. Well, his first year actually had his best showing in 2020 with Milwaukee, but it was pretty small sample size. But like the last 2 years, he's had a 128 Stuff Plus, 100 being kind of average, 121 Stuff Plus the year before that. When he was a full-time starter for the full season in 2022, he was at 105. But what really makes him amazing is that his electric stuff, and obviously it plays up even more in shorter stuff. The thing that makes Rasmussen so impressive is that he is also a command guy. Like he is a strong command guy. His location plus are all well above 100, 105 when he was a full-time starter in 2022, 109 and 106 the last 2 years. Altogether, I mean, he is legitimately one of the best pitchers in baseball. When you have a guy that can be by everybody last year by pitching plus, which is combining stuff plus and location plus, Drew Rasmussen, including relievers, and he was mostly a reliever last year, he was 12th best in pitching plus. The names ahead of him are guys like Josh Hader, Emmanuel Clase, and Jacob deGrom. Like these are some of the guys. Also, old friend Andrew Kittredge. He had a really good year last year. Got himself some nice money. But with a lot more location based and not as much stuff plus based. So yeah, I mean that's the thing with Rasmussen. He is I feel like it's almost he's kind of underrated on this staff because you had so many, you had like Tyler Glasnow, and then you also have Shane McClanahan, and like you had these like Cy Young front runner types. Rasmussen, if he stays healthy and starts, he is a Cy Young type. Like absolutely could have that. He just hasn't been able to put that together so far. But every time he's on the mound, he has the potential to do some amazing things. We saw him almost get a perfect game for the Rays. So I'm excited to see what is in store, whatever the role. Again, we've seen a lot of guys end up having to go into the bullpen. It's again, some high class problems to have when you have a guy that's maybe one of the best lights out relievers in baseball if the whole starting thing doesn't work out.
I mean, $5.5 million. I think that's less than what Grant Balfour made when the Rays brought him back and had to like DFA him in May or June. And that was like 10 years ago or more.
The Rays also look at pitchers as like, again, you mentioned like it's the puzzle. There's innings and quality, and it doesn't fully matter who can do what. It's all a matter of putting them all together. So if Rasmussen isn't giving you the length, he's giving you higher quality. Somebody else will give you just have to find the person that gives you the length. And that's maybe why Zach Littell is still here. Like that, like if you can do both, if you can get a guy that goes 8 innings strong, then that's amazing. But those are hard. And we've seen that with like even guys like Tyler Glasnow. They've never been able to pitch a full season. Like you would love to see, like somebody like Jacob deGrom and Tyler Glasnow and Drew Rasmussen stay healthy for a full season. It may not work, but that's why you have to get a little creative and get the innings you can and use them in a way that will keep them healthy longest, and especially pitching late in the season and into October.
Yeah. Next guy we're going to talk about, a guy that's been the topic of a lot of conversations on this show, shortstop Taylor Walls, who the Rays did come to an agreement with after it seemed like that was going to be the only player headed to arbitration. And the Rays usually don't revisit it after the deadline. In this case, they did. They were off by about $275,000. The Rays filed $1.3 million, and Walls was looking for $1.575 million. They agreed to a deal that will give him $1.35 million for 2025, and then they have an option for 2026. That's if it's picked up, it's worth $2.45 million or a $50,000 buyout. However, if they don't pick up the option, he does not become a free agent. He's still under team control and would go through the arbitration process again. But the reason this is even more noteworthy is that after Rays beat writer Mark Topkin posted about Taylor Walls being the only player they were going to go to arbitration with, and made a comment, I think that, about or something in the story or something in the tweet about his offensive numbers, and that they were not very good, which is just factual.
Objectively true things.
Yeah. Even Taylor Walls could admit that. But then Taylor Walls took it upon himself to reply and asked why didn't you show any of the defensive statistics? And then got really cryptic and defensive and combative on Twitter with fans. And Taylor Walls probably does get a lot of criticism, especially after just another horrendous offensive season. And I'm not the biggest Taylor Walls fan. It's clear to me that he is an elite defender, although that's not by all the defensive metrics. That's not the consensus. I think it's very clear that the Rays view him as an elite defensive shortstop. However, the defensive run saved doesn't like him at all, right? It's outs above average that loves Taylor Walls.
It's and if you do take the difference, he still rates pretty highly, but the defensive metrics they've also advanced quite a bit in the last few years, but they still probably have the hardest. It's much easier to look at the batting metrics and the pitching metrics and be pretty confident in knowing we can tell what's good and what's not. Defensive metrics for the most part trend one way, but you can have these weird divergences between types of defensive metrics, like defensive run saved and outs above average. But
now, I mean, it's clear to me that the Rays value his defense, because if they didn't, it would be malpractice to roster him. If you think, he's not a great shortstop, there's no reason then to keep him on the team. But I think this is a good deal for Taylor Walls. It's guaranteed $1.5 million in the bank. When I don't know how many other big league jobs would be out there for him if the Rays had decided to part ways at the end of this season.
Yeah. And
it's clear to me that while he's on this team, the Rays view him as the starting shortstop. We talked about this in an earlier episode this offseason. Jose Caballero was the starting shortstop until the day that Taylor Walls was healthy. And then Taylor Walls took that job immediately, and Caballero transitioned to become a utility player. There's already whispers this offseason that Caballero is going to play in the corner outfield, which I think is great. I think Caballero could do that and pull that off and provide a lot of value as a guy that can bounce around both the infield and the outfield. But Taylor Walls is this team shortstop. The Rays, Kevin Cash has made that very clear with how he writes his lineups. And so, I don't know. I mean, it shows that the Rays are at least a little bit committed until the day that Carson Williams is ready, which could come sooner rather than later. So this is really a make or break year for a guy in Taylor Walls who has a 188 career batting average, 288 career on base, and a 71 WRC plus. I mean,
if he's not hitting, if he's hitting like that in June 1st rolls around, if Carson Williams has a hot first couple months in Durham and he has improved at the strikeouts, that was kind of like the last big hurdle for him, I think that's over. I think you're going to see him get called up, and that's kind of the end of that. And I think if you do that, I think Walls goes down at that point. Because I think Caballero feels like I think you mentioned it. Caballero feels a different role. Taylor Walls isn't your starting shortstop. He doesn't really have any value on this team. Full stop. Yeah. Right? Because like
when you have a guy like Carson Williams,
well, that's playing every day. So that's what I mean. It's like basically, if Taylor Walls on your squad, he needs to be starting because that's his main value. He's not super fast, doesn't provide a bat. He's versatile, but like his defense at shortstop is what makes him valuable. That's what makes him a major leaguer. And if you aren't playing him for that defense, you're not really bringing him in late as a defensive replacement at shortstop. That's like a weird thing to do. I mean, teams could do that. I don't know why not, because do that with outfielders, but it's just not something that you really are going to want to do. So like when Carson Williams is ready and he's coming up, Taylor Walls has options. He's going down to Durham because Caballero fills a much more broader role. He can play shortstop. He can give you a day off there, but he can play second. He can play third. He can play corner outfield. He's got the speed. He's got the base running, and he's got a little bit of a bat. Like I think he does enough things. If he was as good as Taylor Walls defensively, Walls is probably not on this team, but he isn't.
Yeah.
So that is the difference right there. Now, like I said, like Taylor Walls' best skill is something that will keep people employed a long time in Major League Baseball because playing shortstop is extremely hard, very, very difficult to do. Not a lot of people do it very well. You can put up with that if they are very good offensively, like Derek Jeter, but you cannot put up with it if they are not. So you have to basically have elite level defense at shortstop. Otherwise, you're probably not going to have a job very long in the major leagues. So I think that his one skill is the skill you want to have, I guess, of anything. But he is definitely at the end of the runway when it comes to, is he going to be a major league or is he going to be a career kind of, is he going to be like Nick Ahmed and be a guy that's going to get jobs because he can play short? But is he ever going to be a guy that people pencil in as a starter ever again?
Right. So what do you do? So like Taylor Walls' profile has been the same really his entire big league career. Like he's gonna make really pretty good swing decisions, but just doesn't hit for much power. I think he actually hurts himself more when he tries to lift the ball. I think he takes a bad approach at times. But let's say he abandons the power swing, right? Like I feel like he's trying to hit for power the last few years. He did have his career year at the plate was 2023 at an 84 WRC plus. And he was in his age 27 season last year. So
it's a very funny career year.
So he's going into his age 28. He's still in those peak years, right? So let's say he figures it out. Let's say, he's fully healthy this year too. Last year he was dealing with a hip injury. That's why Jose Caballero. So like I'm going to come to the defense of Taylor Walls here. So, he's in his age 28 season. He's got the assurance that he is the starting shortstop, at least at the start of the year. Like there shouldn't be a whole lot of pressure in spring training. Carson Williams is not making this team on opening day.
No.
So let's say Taylor Walls puts it together and gets that batting average up a little bit, really maybe starts to switch hitter, just focuses on getting on base, stealing some bases. Like let's say he gets to that 90 to 95 WRC plus range while still bringing the elite defense on shortstop. And then let's say you get to June 1st and Carson Williams is going scorched earth in Durham. What do you do then?
You roll with Taylor Walls more.
If you're having a good, if you're having a good season and you're on track to make the postseason.
Yes. If you're doing well, I think you leave Carson Williams, that's again, high class problems to have. You would leave Carson Williams in Durham until you're like, we need a spark. And then you can bring him up. I think Taylor Walls, if he's doing that at a certain point, you do bring up Carson Williams and you just are like, this is the time is now. And that might be like post All-Star break type of move. But I think you absolutely would be 90 WRC plus Taylor Walls is probably like a 3 to 4 win player. So like
possibly,
like that's very good. Like that would be great. Yeah. That would truly be like the Kiermaier of the infield. Now I will say
he might also get some trade value there too. Like
that's what I'm sorry. So I think that's where
you see Taylor Walls on the Dodgers.
I can see everybody on the Dodgers.
No, but I'm dead serious. He kind of fits the Dodgers.
They don't have a shortstop right now. They do not have a. He would be basically the younger Miguel Rojas. Yeah, absolutely. And you don't have to ever worry about like the Dodgers aren't a team that's like we need Miguel Rojas's like veteran leadership or something like that, because it's like they have it's Mookie, Freeman, and Ohtani are the leaders of that team. Period. Full stop. Like you don't need anybody else to be like. Also, let me tell you how it's done. It's like, well, I'm just gonna listen to those three guys, or Kershaw if he comes back. You have like then you have like there's your Mount Rushmore of like the old heads. No, I think that's when if Taylor Walls is doing that, then you do have the potential of trade him at the deadline, and suddenly now you're just like, here we go, and you can maybe bring back a piece that like helps you for this year even. Now when I say potentially 3 to 4 win player, I think that's in terms of value. That's not necessarily saying any particular like Fangraphs war or Baseball Reference war, because again, a lot of them use certain defensive metrics that despise Taylor Walls. So he has been actually a negative defensive player his entire career, according to Fangraphs, because they use defensive runs saved. So like he will never be a 3-win player with Fangraphs, because he will just be always like a negative player for them. But he would be like a very valuable player on this team if he had a 90 WRC plus. I do think the power is back to his approach. Power is the big thing, right? He has no power. He never has had it. His prospect reports had basically 30 graded game power, 30 graded future power. He's just not a guy that's going to ever hit for power, but that's okay, because he's got like average speed, a little bit above average contact, but a very above average plate discipline and batter's eye. So like he draws his walks. He is pretty good in control of the strike zone. He just doesn't make good contact, and the contact a lot of the times he's making is elevating it, and it's just going nowhere. And the Rays love to have elevated fly balls, but like you have to do something with them. So I do think he needs to change his approach a bit. Like, I think if you can be a guy that just draws your walks, slaps your contact, there you go. I think you can have a very valuable season, and I hope he does. Like, I mean, it seems like the bit of a spat is gone. I did just like look over his X account, and everything has been scrubbed from that period.
Really?
Like yeah, it's account. All of those replies. No, it still has some stuff. It still has like a retweet of like.
I was about to say, he seems like one that's the like president really leaning into X now.
Not as much as you think, but yeah, he does. I mean, he does have like he has a retweet about RFK being nominated for Health and Human Services. A retweet for thanking the Rays, thanking Colin Poche for leaving. So like there's some of that stuff. And the last thing on his reply.
Wait, did you say a retweet for the Rays thanking Colin Poche for leaving?
So thank you for his time with
thank you for
thank you for his out the door. The please close the door on your way out.
Yeah. Still unsigned Colin Poche.
Still bring him back, man. Why not?
Hey, I'm not opposed.
We don't have any room in the bullpen, but it's
they just got another lefty too. So
yeah, so like, and then basically other than that, and then other than like I think about college football from December, everything else he had like after that was deleted. So all of this, the public spat with Mark Topkin and all of the tweets that sound like basically tweeting like an NFL wide receiver, the silent blade moves into the back.
There's been a couple instances of Taylor Walls being defensive about things that he said.
He's a very strong defensive guy, and that's on the field. Exactly. It's online. He's defensive through and through.
where he'll say something or do something, and then there's reaction to it, and then he's like, "Whoa, what do you mean?" Like, he did the gesture that was taken by some as a political
Yep.
statement on second base
How could
this
you
year,
possibly take it as a
and then it's
political
like, "Whoa,
statement?
no, it was having fun." And
Mhm.
then I think there's been other comments in the past, so yeah, maybe it's just a good idea for him to stay off of social media and just to like,
It's a good advice for everybody. It's a good advice for everybody, but yeah, particularly if you're a major league athlete who's about to go to arbitration for your salary, might be
right.
best. It was very confusing to who he was fighting with, like if it was like Topkin or people in the comment, and like
I think it
listen,
was more
Taylor
so
Walls.
fans. I think there was
It
a
was
lot of
more
meat,
so
like,
fans.
yeah, because fans have been rough on him, and maybe rightfully so. Like, I don't know.
I mean, the thing is, here's the end of the day, though. We're gonna crack our jokes about Taylor Walls' offense, but like, he's a major league player.
Yeah,
His defense is worthy of being in the major leagues. He really, I mean, like, I get it. Like, I wouldn't want to hear some schlub online tell me I suck when, like, clearly I'm better than most people at this sport. But like, maybe just take the solace in the fact that you are better than
right.
most people in this sport, and they don't know anything, and so just like don't
I think
engage.
with 2024 and Taylor Walls looks a lot better when everyone else around him is hitting. Same thing probably would have been said
Exactly.
for Alex Jackson. And so the issue with 2024 as a whole, and I don't know, we talked about some of the process that we didn't like going into 2024, keeping guys like
Mm-hmm.
Harold Ramirez, but look at that team in the second half that still just could not get going offensively. Can you blame Kevin Cash for like, man, nobody would care about Taylor Walls and Alex Jackson hitting eighth and ninth if Josh Lowe were hitting, if Christopher
Mm-hmm.
Morel were hitting. Like,
Yeah.
if these guys perform to their projections, this year 8 and 9 is going to be DeLuca and Walls. No one's going to complain about that if the other guys are hitting. But when I don't want to hear about Alex Jackson's relationship with the pitchers or Taylor Walls'
No.
instincts when the Rays are losing 3-1 every night. Like,
it's where the difference between Alex Jackson and Ben Rortvedt or Taylor Walls and Jose Caballero really come into play. And you are like you're scrounging in the dirt here because it's like these guys are like 90 WRC plus. So it's not like they're like batting like out of sight of the world, but you're like, I'll take Ben Rortvedt is water in the desert with his like 95 WRC plus compared to the like sub 30 that Alex Jackson is doing. Like Jose Caballero looks like prime Barry Bonds compared to the like barely like 50% below replacement level Taylor Walls hitting. So like I think that's the thing. It's like, yeah, if you get them up into the 80s, I do think you're just like, oh yeah, they're doing their job. They're doing the defensive side and they get, I don't know, maybe a hit today, maybe a walk. But that's it. That's all you need to do, right? Like you get a sack fly and maybe a walk out of the bottom of that order. Boom. That's great. Yeah. But like I mean, I do think I did have some arguments online with folks about like Alex Jackson, and it is really not to say like I'm defending Alex Jackson's hitting because it was very hard to watch. It's that like that is not the reason we're losing games. Like that's not the reason they're like it is like you need your 1 through 6 to show up, but it really does underline how painful it is when you do have like a base hit finally, and then you get a guy over to second, and then it's Alex Jackson, Taylor Walls, Jose Caballero to be like, we need one of these guys to get a hit, and never. It's like where, and this will be like a segue into some other news. It's where like Dylan Carlson came in and like seemed like amazing because he got like a couple of hits. Like it was like last year, if you were if you were a league average hitter, you would have been like the Rays fans' favorite player of all time.
Bite your arm off for league average.
4 home runs, 270 batting average. What the hell? Hall of Fame vote right here. Up next.
Speaking of the Hall of Fame, let's touch on the Hall of Fame a little bit. So we have
new Hall of Famers.
I think a really fun class. Let's talk about Ichiro. So Ichiro was 1 vote shy of becoming the second ever unanimously selected Hall of Fame inductee. Missed out on one vote. We don't know who it was. We don't know his reasoning. I don't know. Maybe like some people don't realize that some voters will leave like shoo-ins for the Hall of Fame off for reasons other than they don't believe that they're worthy. So like one possibility is that you can only vote for 10 players on a ballot. And if there's a guy that you know will get in, you will leave that player off and vote for 10 other guys that you think are worthy. And then Darby, you brought up another possibility that because only one player ever has been unanimous, and that was Mariano Rivera, that no one else deserves to be unanimous in the history of the game.
To be fair, I think that's a dumb argument, but I do think that is an argument that I have heard from people.
Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, he's in. We knew he was going to be in, and we knew he was going to be very close to unanimous. One of the best hitters of all time, and to do it on two continents and to play at a really high level, well into his 30s. I mean, he played into his 40s, but played at a really high level, well into his 30s. Just a joy. And I know, Darby, you being out in that area, that part of the country, I think Ichiro means something a little more to the people, in the Seattle area and in Washington, than maybe, he's a global superstar. But talk to me a little bit about Ichiro and his impact as a Mariners legend.
Oh, I mean, he's still, to this day, he's right up there, like 1A, 1B with like Ken Griffey Jr. And to know that in Seattle is insane, because Ken Griffey Jr. is a god on earth here in Seattle. So Ichiro is right there. I mean, there was a big deal when Ichiro kind of sort of anointed Julio Rodriguez as like the next guy. Like he had a meeting with him and kind of did this, like kind of exchanging of words. And it was like this, like, it's like this weird, he blessed him. He like, arise, Sir Julio of the Knights of Suzuki. I mean, like it is like a big, like Ichiro is the guy that, he shows up every now and then. He's around the team. He's still pretty active in the team for somebody who doesn't live out here full time. Right. I mean, he is beloved. He is not just a superstar. I mean, he is a beloved player here. And I feel like he has like a big cultural impact, not unlike Griffey, in the sense that if you are of our like generation, you grew up and like he is one of the most exciting and cool players to like come out in all of baseball. I mean, he just had this aura, and he wasn't a home run guy. Like that was the other thing too. He was like kind of a slap hitting guy, but like what an exciting, fun presence, and seems like just an amazing guy. Like he still is like one of those people that still seems very active around like the Mariners organization. And I think that is another part of it. The Mariners as a franchise are one of these franchises that really does do a lot of hard work to like maintain the like Mariners legendary status, team legendary status. Like they're very like protective of their, like Edgar Martinez is now with the team. Dan Wilson is the manager. And so like Ichiro is still sort of a part of, like, he's still in that like range. So yeah, he is somebody that never has to buy a drink in Seattle. He's somebody that the team still like, he's just somebody that you just always are still looking up to. So like when he shows up and talks hitting with people, like everybody pays attention. So what is also really exciting, we were just looking it up, but like the Rays will be in town actually in Seattle. So that's even more incentive for me to show up when they're doing the number retirement ceremony at the stadium. So very fun stuff. Ichiro is he also has, for those that play the Immaculate Grid, you got a couple of random, one-off seasons at the end there to like expand, get your Marlins Ichiro block. That's always a fun one.
Yeah, the next guy that was inducted, CC Sabathia, colorful history with the Rays organization. Obviously, when the Yankees were playing beanball, for the last few years, the 2010s, and then into the 2020 season when Sabathia was still pitching for them, was known for, sticking up for his guys, or I think that's how he put it.
Mhm.
But for CC Sabathia, when back to his Cleveland days, and some of my earliest, he pitched at the Trop quite a bit. Like it felt like every time that the Indians were in town that he was pitching. And I went to, like, I saw him multiple times, probably 2 or 3 times. And for me, that was like the first pitcher that I would go and see. And I was a pretty young kid. That I was just like, he struck fear into me when he was going to face my team. I mean, this big, hulking, left-handed pitcher, he was going to go deep into games. He was going to strike a lot of guys out, and he was really going to shut you down. And he had a lot of success against the Devil Rays at the time and in at Tropicana Field. And even though, I wasn't a huge fan of his during his time with the Yankees, I have nothing but respect for the career that he put together. And I'm really glad that he got in, especially as a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think he's very deserving. I think he was one of the last of his kind in terms of those just workhorse starting pitchers that you were not going to take off the mound. Like that is something,
Mhm.
for better or for worse, that we just don't see anymore. And I don't think we will moving forward. And so for me to get to watch Sabathia's career almost in its entirety, I just think it's really cool, and I'm glad that he was honored with a first ballot induction. And Billy Wagner, last one, Billy
Billy
Wagner.
Wagner, yes.
It was his 10th year, right? That was it for him.
Fighting to get in, chipping away. But yeah, well deserved. I mean, like one of the best left-handed relievers of all time. A stellar career of just super high quality pitching. I mean, in his age 38 season, his very last year in 2010, he had an ERA of 143. He had a FIP of 210 and a Fangraphs WAR of 2. Like
That's
in his
insane.
last year, almost 70 innings pitched. It's age 38, still top of the game, like one of like a great relieving season. So like that's just the guy, relievers have a hard time getting into the Hall. They have a really, really hard time getting into the Hall generally. But he was somebody that just was consistently good, a lot of volume the entire way, and had pretty amazing moments with like several franchises. So like
Yeah,
he's going to go in with Houston almost certainly, but has some pretty good moments with like the Phillies, obviously, the Mets, finished with Atlanta, kind of toured the NL East there. But yeah, I mean, I think I have no complaints about all three of these guys going in. Absolutely not. I think CC going in with Ichiro is also cool because they both came into the majors in 2001. So that was, I think, kind of neat to like, they started their careers the same year in the majors and then now are going into the Hall of Fame the same year. And then Billy Wagner's a guy I feel like I have been on the campaign of like, I do think he deserves the Hall of Fame the entire time he's been on the ballot. I don't really know what changes for people when the years go on, but he's been a Hall of Famer the entire time. I don't know. He didn't get better in the last few years, but I'm glad the voters eventually decided to throw him a bone.
Yeah, I think there's space. I think there should be space for. I'm not like, I guess you could call me a small hall guy, but I think there should be space for people that were the very best at their jobs. I mean, we even talked about
defined positions, whether that's small position, like Edgar Martinez. There was a big argument with Edgar Martinez going in as just a DH and David Ortiz. And it's like, well, they defined that position for an era. So you cannot tell me that they don't belong in this story of baseball, like the Hall.
Which is incredibly disappointing. And I never thought that he had a chance of getting in, but it was incredibly disappointing to me that Ben Zobrist didn't get a single vote for the Hall of Fame. Like Adam Jones got a couple votes, like a few other players that were very, very good players, but just not like Hall of Fame worthy, in my opinion. And again, I didn't think Zobrist would ever cross that 75% threshold. But talk about you always heard of utility players, but Ben Zobrist kind of became one of the first super utility players where he could literally play
Yes.
anywhere on the diamond other than catcher, but I would have liked to see him try and do so at a really high level and perform. And he had a season where he led the American League in WAR, should have probably been the MVP. I don't think he was a finalist even. And there was some talk, like there was a Fangraphs article, I think was it Foolish Baseball or
Foolish
another
Baseball,
content
yeah.
creator did a like Ben Zobrist should be the worst Hall of Famer video. And
Mhm.
I was just disappointed. I don't know if Mark Topkin has a vote or not, but it would have been nice to see.
He does, and he didn't. He voted
does.
3. He voted all 3 of the ones who won, but he did not put anybody else on the ballot this year.
That seems tough. Like, I don't. Again, he didn't get any votes, so nobody thought he was a Hall of Famer. So
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Topkin needed to throw him a courtesy vote. Like if I was a voter, I would vote for the guys who I thought were Hall of Famers. And so I just was hoping there would have been a little more respect. Maybe you get to 5% and you keep him on the ballot, and the discussion, he stays on the ballot for multiple years. But Ben Zobrist, his career was cut short too after some personal issues and. He was towards the end
of
his
had a late
career,
start to his career too.
Years. Yeah, that too.
Kind of had a late start to his career, kind of a late bloomer. But yeah, he defined a position, which was no position. But like I think that's there's a since somebody titled it might have been Bailey with over Foolish Baseball, because I do feel like there was somebody had like a thing of like all the players that were listed as in referenced in articles or whatnot as the next Ben Zobrist or like Ben Zobrist, like the people that like players that, and we've talked about this, like there is a difference between a guy that stands at multiple positions and a super utility player. Like you cannot be a super utility player if you are bad at several positions. You have to be like good. You have to be able to be like, if you pencil them in as a day one starter at this position, you'd be like, yeah, cool. And then you'd be like, like if going into the season, Rays had Ben Zobrist starting shortstop, you'd be like, nice. All right, cool. What other positions we got to worry about? And then or second base. Absolutely. Third base. You'd be like, oh, that's weird. What happened to Longoria that year? And then right field, be like, awesome. Sure. Why not? Center field, be like, that seems, you're probably stretching it now, but like, whatever, let's see how it goes. I think that's the true super utility. And I kind of think like baseball never really had that. Like people would kind of gravitate towards that spot and put him in there. I think Ben Zobrist kind of helped to unlock the opportunity for a lot of guys of lesser talents than him, obviously, to have that as a like real role in Major League Baseball. There's always been utility throughout Major League Baseball, but this was actually suddenly like there's value to a guy that can play a lot of positions pretty well on your roster. And I think you look now, I mean, like the pinnacle of that right now is what, like Mookie Betts? He's playing right field. Yeah. He's played second base, playing shortstop. Like that's the elite level of that. Is suddenly you have a guy that's like, just get him out there, but not as a DH first base. Like, I don't know, just plop him over.
But there's even questions about Mookie's defense. Like Mookie's never been an elite defender anywhere, really. I mean, he was pretty good at his peak at, in the outfield in Boston, right field, but he's a below average shortstop. He's not like a liability out there, but he's not. He's nowhere near Gold Glove level. That's not to discredit Mookie in any way. Like that dude's a Hall of Famer. But yeah, I was just hoping for a little bit of Ben Zobrist. So I'm not saying I would have even voted for him, but I was just hoping that the discussion was going to continue and his name was going to stay in baseball discourse. Darby, last thing I want to talk about. Vegas win totals are out on most major sports books. We talked about this a little bit last year with Jim Turvey, who
got cleaned out last year. We got crushed. We got crushed.
Really bullish on the Rays. We were taking Rays over on wins, Rays to win the division. Josh Lowe to win American League MVP.
We did not take that bet. We said that was if you wanted a crazy plus 50,000. Like, yeah.
Did not do well.
All of them. Yeah.
But I'm back to say that I'm bullish on the Rays again against Vegas's projections. The win total right now is set at 80.5, 80.5 wins. So all you have to do is go 500, and that's a ticket. It's not even juice to the over. I just feel like Man, a
Yeah.
500. We think this team is no better than they were a year ago.
That's the part to me. So coming into this season, I'm actually kind of surprised. This is actually the first time I saw, because I did not see those win totals yet, but I will easily take the over on that as well. Yeah, you're coming into this season like last year. It was a bad year, right?
Right.
But like we have talked about this, that was a bad year, and you can kind of point to a lot of different things why it was bad. Historically bad, like unsustainably bad, batted ball luck when it comes to runners in scoring position. Stuff that like just by sheer luck, you're going to hit a little bit better with runners in scoring position. The pitching staff, again, opening day, you have guys like Tyler Alexander in your starting rotation. Like, no disrespect to Todd the Painter, but like
Todd the Painter.
This year, we're looking at, well, like, is there room for Drew Rasmussen, the guy with some of the best stuff in all of baseball, to fit into that? And that's after you've traded Jeffrey Springs. This is a team that went 80 and 82 last year. With all of that, with a bereft starting pitching unit, an offense that performed, everybody performed below average. You saw Yandy and Brandon Lau kind of they kind of ended up like career average. Like they both ended up doing their job. Everybody else way below where they should be. I mean, again, baseball can baseball. Things can happen. But like you were just rolling in, if you're just thinking about it, if that team was an 80 and 82 win team with bad luck, you are rolling in with Shane McClanahan, Drew Rasmussen, another year healthier of Shane Baz, another year older with Taj Bradley, another year with Ryan Pepio, still have Zach Littell. The bullpen has gotten even stronger. Last year it started coming into the season. The bullpen was a bit of a question mark, but we always said, by the end of the year, they're going to be fine. They're fine. They're overloaded now. And the offense, I mean, you have Junior Caminero. You have still Yandy and Brandon Lau, who are the key components last year. And again, like you are now, to get to the under on this one, you're going to need bad injury health, which can happen, but you're also going to still need like guys like Josh Lowe and Christopher Morel to beat like their career averages in the negative, right? You're going to have to, like, Christopher Morel has had 2/3 of his plate appearances have been well above average batting. 1/3 last year was terrible. You're basically having to say that 1/3 is correct and the other 2/3 was a mirage. And I'm not ready to believe that yet. So again, only make bets if you're willing to lose it for fun. Do not spend money you don't have. But it just, in terms of like that line, I'm taking the over again easily. Maybe I'm going Martingale and I'm doubling up. I'm trying to get my bets back.
Yeah, I mean, I sure there are plenty of ways in which this season could unfold that the Rays are a losing team again.
There's ways that Dodgers lose the division. There's but like you don't bet on that. Like that's priced in, and that's priced in correctly that you wouldn't bet on it. So
the Rays, I mean, just based on those win totals and the odds to win the division, Vegas predicts that the Rays will finish fourth, which is, again, I mean, they could finish fourth and win 82 games. Like,
I would take the over on that because if Vegas is saying that, that's saying that fourth would be 80. Yeah, I could see that entire division going over 500.
I kind of like I'm looking at FanDuel's odds right now, and
they have Blue Jays last on that one. Must be Blue Jays last?
Blue Jays, and then Red Sox. I'm probably Baltimore second.
Taking that. I'm taking the over on Blue Jays too.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's still.
I don't love their team, but I'm still taking the way it's set.
Yeah, we'll do a full division preview, I think, coming up. But Rays win total right there at 80.5. Rays to win 90 games is plus 350. So I don't know. Do you think 80 wins is more likely or 90 wins is more likely?
I guess I'll say 90 because I think they're going to be more in that 85 to 88 range. And
You'd bet them. You'd say like
if I take 2, I can probably get to 90 versus -2. I have to lose 5
right.
versus gaining maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll take, yeah. If I was throwing a little extra juice, I go 90.
At plus 350, I think that's the right play. I mean, if you're bullish on the Rays, which we always seem to be.
Again, it's like there's also a big difference between winning the division, like World Series contender type of thing. Like I think you can fairly say like that's not like where I'm at right now. But like
4 years before last year, the Rays hit the over on their Vegas win total. They outperformed most projection systems. So I don't want us to sound like we're just always crazy high on the Rays. No, the Rays have proven that they outperform these projection systems.
If this was set at like 85.5, I'm like, okay, I'm probably staying away. I'm probably staying away from that. Yeah. Cause I'm like, I think they're going to go over, but like, I'm not 100% confident. I could see a pretty solid season being 83, 84 wins. Right. So like, I don't know. I feel like it would be, again, last year, almost everything that could go wrong went wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you had one of your best pitchers miss time for like a spider bite infection. Like that was the type of like bad luck that was happening. So I don't know. I'm like, anything can happen in baseball. That's why sports betting is not a science. It is a gamble.
Not a profitable business.
But yeah, no, that's low enough that I'm fairly confidently bullish. Like, I think we're on the same page of like, there's a difference between being like the Rays are the greatest team ever. Everyone's gonna hit their 90th percentile outcomes. I think a lot of people are going to hit their 60th percentile outcomes. I just think that 60th percentile outcome is a lot better than people are expecting. Mm-hmm. And that's where I think getting to 81, 82 wins, I think that's a lot of outcomes lead to that, I think, this year.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, we're getting closer to spring training. We've got a bunch of fun episodes lined up for you guys. I'm itching for baseball now that college football's done with. We've only got the Super Bowl left in the NFL. Speaking of the NFL, let's close with a quick Bucks minute.
Let's close. This is a good one to raise our voice on too.
We've been doing it at the top of the show, but we saved this one for the raise your voice segment. Let me hear your thoughts on Liam Cohen being named the Jacksonville Jaguars' new head coach.
Everyone knew that Liam Cohen was going to be seeking a job, right? He had an amazing season, very gifted offensive mind. I think he had one of the best offensive play calling seasons in the NFL last year. I think he was a sensation. He's right up there with the Kevin O'Connells and your kind of like elite level offensive minds, your Ben Johnsons. Like I think he is spectacular when it comes to that. I was hoping that he would be able to be retained by the Bucks. And I even kind of feel like going forward, it probably would be better to have Todd Bowles retire and Liam Cohen just take over. So that way you keep him. When he went to the Jaguars, I felt like, well, that could be an interesting spot for him. They do have a young quarterback. You know, it might be one of those things, there's only so many jobs in the NFL. So it's not a bad place to go. When he declined that job and left, went back to Tampa Bay and agreed to the largest extension or the largest pay increase or be the highest paid offensive or position coach in NFL history. I was like, that's great. You give him that raise. He does the Ben Johnson thing, which a lot of coordinators should do, which is basically pick your role well, because once you have your first bad job, it becomes a lot harder to get that stink off of you. Like as much as you may not get that other opportunity, you may not get that other opportunity after you've blown it with a team. So you kind of want to wait it out. The way he went about this is what I think justifiably makes a lot of Bucks fans pissed, because taking another job is fine, but leaving in the middle of the night, dodging phone calls, ghosting the team, using your kid as an excuse, whether or not there's actual medical things that's kind of beside the point. using that as the excuse why you couldn't say, like, you know what, things changed. The Jaguars fired the terrible GM that they had, and I now want to actually give this a go. That's different. That's totally different. But he didn't do that. Called Todd Bowles 30 minutes after it was already leaked on ESPN, after Todd Bowles already did that. Todd Bowles, who, again, I think he gets a lot of crap, and I think there's a lot of justifiable reasons. He's a fundamentally great human being, like a very, very decent man who wants nothing for his players and his coaches to succeed. And so I think treating him like that is very disrespectful, extremely disrespectful. And I think what this process showed is that Liam Cohen, as a person, seems like a fairly untrustworthy and kind of shady rat.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just straight up. Like, this is a person who has never been a head coach of people. And like, he might succeed, but this is already starting off as a huge glaring red flag of personality, that he did this the way that he did this.
Yeah. And the gamble that Jacksonville's taking is they are giving him the keys. They are letting him have a huge hand in picking their next GM. They're entrusting him with, taking Trevor Lawrence to that next step in his development. And I think he's very capable of that. You could say that he's, played a big part in reviving Baker Mayfield's career, although, Baker was already on the right track under Dave Canales in his first year in Tampa Bay.
Is Baker just the kingmaker, though? Is that
maybe
that's the secret sauce?
Yeah. I'm not upset about the fact that we always thought it was a possibility they would lose him. We thought the only surefire way to keep him would be to make him the head coach.
Right.
I also, and I'm glad that Jason Light and the Glazers, agree with this. I think they do. You don't want to force a head coach out that won another division title, won 10 games. Like the Bucs for so long have had so much turnover. They've been such a terribly run organization. Head coaches in and out the door, GMs in and out the door.
You don't want to be the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Right, exactly. And even when Jason Light, was able to bring in Bruce Arians and then bring in Tom Brady and then win a Super Bowl, we knew that both Arians, who came out of retirement, and Brady, who was on the last few years of his career, that those were not long-term plays. Those were going to be a few years at most. And then, they both retired, and you had to move on. You had to get Todd Bowles. You promoted him from defensive coordinator. And so I like the idea that the Bucs are going to keep that consistency, something that they haven't had in a long time. And if that means losing Liam Cohen, so be it. The Bucs, because of how well run that organization is under Jason Light's leadership, are going to have, I know they've missed out on a couple key candidates just because of how late it's happened, but they're going to have their pick of the litter. Like there's going to be a lot of really great coaches that are going to want to line up and be the Bucs offensive coordinator. Is it going to be difficult for Baker Mayfield to learn a new offense? Yeah, but I mean, how different are NFL offenses these days? Like there's different wrinkles in each, but this is not like college football from 20, 30 years ago where,
right,
two teams are running just completely different. Like for the most part, same skeleton of a playbook. So I think Baker will be fine. The rest of the Bucs offense will be fine. You've got a great offensive line, an incredible young running back in Bucky Irving, an affordable quarterback, Hall of Fame receiver, guys like still have Chris Godwin and Jalen McMillan. Like the Bucs offense, that Bucs OC job, very attractive. And I think the Bucs will be just fine. Will their offense take a hit? Maybe. Like Liam Cohen's probably better than whoever else they'll hire. But overall, for the health of the organization, I'm really happy with where they're headed. I know like they might not seem super close to, where the Chiefs and the Eagles are now. But I'm just happy to be in the playoffs like every year and be in the conversation. For me, that's better. Like, every 4 or 5 years, maybe you go on a run. But just be in the conversation, win division titles, and take advantage of this division while it's as terrible as it is, because it won't be like that forever.
And I mean, I think you're looking at Carolina is already showing like signs they're crawling out. I think New Orleans is squarely in the bottom for a while that cap is a disaster. But I do think Carolina and Atlanta have some really talent, and like they're on the upswing. They're right there. So I think this is a nice 3-team race potentially as early as next year. But I agree. And I think overall I've come completely around on this after the way Liam Cohen kind of handled this offseason, in that I would much rather be in this spot where Jason Light has to work really hard and interview a bunch of talented young offensive minds to get this job than to have forced out a good person in Todd Bowles for somebody who, frankly, I don't know. I have now a lot of questions about, and I shouldn't have, because everybody at the University of Kentucky, they called this 100%, that said, enjoy him before he does some sort of snake move to move on up the ladder. And hey, they nailed it. I'm
the Liam Cohen playbook.
I'm excited to see Liam Cohen in a couple of years go back to Kentucky for a year and then leave again in the middle of the night to just keep bouncing back from that to the. I mean, listen, I wish the Jaguars luck at their 30-year wander in the wilderness. But this is the type of move that I will say this. Like, I think hiring Liam Cohen is one thing. The fact that they brought him in for an interview while officially announcing they were keeping Trent Baalke in as their general manager, who is bad at his job is like, I don't know why he was still kept, but they kept him there anyway. They lose Liam Cohen, presumably because Trent Baalke was there. They then fire Trent Baalke, then come groveling back to get Liam Cohen to pull off this, overnight thing, and then give him the keys to the castle with Ben Johnson money and full control. That is the type of moves, though, that, like, if you're a Jaguars fan, you have to be really happy with Liam Cohen and Trent Baalke gone. But the avenue to get there is very disconcerting, because you wanted to keep Trent Baalke. You then left because you panicked because there was no more coaches available for you. And this was the best one available. And now you've given this guy, who's never been a head coach at any level ever, all of this power, like Sean Payton levels of power out of nowhere. I mean, that's what bad franchises do. And that's why bad franchises stay bad, is that they don't have the courage of their convictions. They don't have a plan. That plan just changes. They panic and they do panicky things. And I'm very glad that the Bucs are not in that spot. And I think that's the core of that is you can take losing an offensive coordinator and take that step back, but to know that your franchise is one that is stable. It's run by adults. It's not like the earth is going to shake underneath it. And like you said, if you're a young offensive mind going to Tampa, scoring some points, and then getting a head coaching job, it's not a bad launching pad for your NFL career.
Not at all. Well, if you stuck around and listened to Bucks Minute, then we know you're a real one. And Bucks Minute's probably back on the shelf for a few months now that we're into the off season and baseball season is heating back up. But that is going to do it. Oh, you got one more
real quick. I have one last thing for Bucks Overtime Minute. If you are disappointed with the Super Bowl contestants, it's because the Bucks are out, because they're the only team that has beaten both of these teams.
Yeah.
That has freed us of the Eagles and Chiefs supremacy. The Bucks are the one, they are the chosen one to beat it. They are the Lisan Al-Gaib, but they're out. So this is what we got now. We got the Eagles versus the Chiefs forever until the Bucks return.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is going to do it for this week's episode of Raise Your Voice. Thank you guys for listening. We have been live on youtube.com/Raise Your Voice. You can go back and watch this as a video anytime you want. If you haven't already, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on that notification bell so you can join us every time we go live. We're also still available wherever you get your podcasts. If you really like what we do and want to say thank you, you can become a Patreon member for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/Raise Your Voice. As always, make sure to head on over to draysbay.com to check out all of that great Rays coverage. Once again, thank you guys for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.